Welcome to the Practice You podcast. My name is Elena Brower. Together, we'll explore and enjoy content and conversations around mastering transitions in our relations, our wellness, our careers, our families, and especially in our missions and visions. You are invited to learn and love and listen with me. Welcome to Practice You. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a longtime friend now and a very dear collaborator, Paavo, from Above and Beyond. It is such a treat to have you here. So welcome to the podcast.
Well, first of all, just lovely to hear from you, lovely to chat, and thanks for having me here as part of your podcast.
You bet. We met in 2014. It was a very auspicious Wednesday evening on the playa at Burning Man. And we were thrust together to teach a yoga class near the Robot Heart in their camp, which was all the way out. Any burner knows it's all the way out there. May we get back to the burn at some point soon. And you and Tony were up at the top of the Robot Heart. You were spinning for my class and I was teaching. We'd never met before. We didn't know who each other were. We just knew that we could trust the guys from the Robot Heart community to put together a good thing. We started, and within a few minutes, of course, we both remember there was this instant sense of synergy and cohesion. Everyone in the class felt it. We felt it. I looked up at you, I remember a few times, just incredulous at how perfect everything felt. And since then, we've done a lot of work together. We are recording this podcast mid-quarantine, end of April 2020, about to launch a new surprise for our people. And we thought we would get together to just talk a little bit about this collaboration. I would also really love for my listener to learn about you, who you are, and how you came to be here. And so we'll start with your history. How did you begin working in music? Was it an instant thing when you were little, or did it come about as you were getting older?
If we actually really wind back, I'm from a very musical family. My dad's been doing a lot of singing. All my cousins played instruments. And for me, at a very early age, I was just always fascinated about sound and music and how it made me feel, how it made other people feel, how music can be a way of transmitting emotions and stories, and how that kind of resonates with other people. It's like a form of communication. So my first job actually was like my first proper paid job was playing piano for like little family gatherings and and things like that. Ended up working in a local theater where at like 15 I made like music for a musical. And so my music kind of started in live events and theater. And then when I got a bit older, I got into more and more into computers, clubbing. And I guess, for me, like when I started going clubbing, until that point, I'd always felt a little bit like a weirdo and different and a bit of an outsider. I wasn't that into sports and things like that. So going clubbing, I kind of felt I'd sort of found my family, and that sort of started a lifelong fascination with the clubbing culture, electronic music in all its forms. And I, at like sort of 15, 16, I started making dance music, and I've been doing it for a few years now.
Just a few. Just a couple. That's such a... I love the picture of who you must have been at 15. You're probably exactly the same kid that you are now,
Yeah, well, my hair is getting really long now during quarantine, and in late 90s, I had long curly hair. So maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's like coming full circle. Or maybe I need to start wearing some baggy um, pants and some military boots, which was the 90s rave
That would
clothes,
be
you know?
fun. Totally, totally. I can see it right now. And when did you come upon uh, the boys? When did you meet Jono and Tony?
After like high school, I was working as a pop producer in Finland and really wanted to go and study and understand music business. So I moved to London to study music business, and that's where I met Jono. And then within a few months of meeting Jono, we also met Tony. Jono was studying in the same university as me, and Tony was actually the marketing director of Warner Records UK. So he was like this huge music industry dude, and we were these two dance music fanatic university students. And Tony was also producing dance music. And when we got into the studio together, that's how Above and Beyond was formed. And we very quickly sort of sparked off in the studio and ended up working a lot together.
What year was that when you guys started?
That was just at the end of 99 and 2000. So it really is our like sort of 20th anniversary right now.
What's crazy is that that feels like yesterday. Like 2000 was just yesterday, wasn't it? You know? And now it's 20 years later.
Yeah, and I remember the feeling of uncertainty. There was all these talks about like, the world's gonna end and computers are gonna stop working, and it felt exciting and a little bit kind of like sort of scary, around 2000. Now, wind wind to today, the uncertainty that we're all feeling and the sort of fear and stress is on another level, I think.
Yeah. It's been a wonderful time to watch how everyone responds and to observe what's working and what's not working. And I found that my greatest comfort comes in the people who provide me with just very simple instruction, like don't forget to tend to your dishes and your laundry and the things that matter, like your children or whatever it is that you're working on to keep yourself easeful. What do you feel like is helping you at this time the most?
Um, I've like found a lot of sort of grounding and strength in my daily meditation practice. Um, the past month has been really crazy for me, especially that I was ill and I went through over 4 weeks of total solitude, like being totally on my own in a very scary situation. So meditation was really good there, but now that I've actually got to Finland, where I've been able to actually spend time with people, some of my closest friends over here. I'm really realizing that the presence of other people is very, very important to me and has been really comforting to talk with other people just about what it's like for them, especially being able to do it in person. It's one thing like us talking like this, but there's something about being present in a space with another human being
Yeah.
that's really quite powerful. And we also had a dog here for 4 days, and even that was really remarkable. How like having another creature showing unconditional love, how helpful that can be. Because I was really like stripped away and totally isolated and not being able to have any contact. So it just really highlighted to me how I really need other people as well.
It's interesting because I found myself, I had to leave New York because the three of us are all in some way compromised, respiratorily speaking. And we came to a town where two of my best friends happened to also be quarantining here. So we get to see each other, even walk together and hike together every couple of days. And those are, those days are medicine. So I know what you're talking about personally. And I feel like for those people who can't have another person nearby, who haven't been, quarantined or in their little biome, their quarantine biome with anyone else, your work has been a huge balm for people, a salve for people, like saving grace. And I know that I've received countless emails over the course of the last 6-7 weeks regarding the first flow state, and how it's helping people, how they're using it to wake up in the morning. Rada, who started Daybreaker, this is her alarm. The Flow State album is her alarm. When
Does
she
she
wakes
ever
up,
get
I
out of bed?
swear. No, she doesn't get out of bed. But she wanted me, and she wanted me to tell you this too, it's her saving grace. When we first came together to make this, can you talk about what exactly catalyzed you to ask me about this?
Well, originally, like Flow State as an album, um, was really sort of stemming from our band's kind of long history with doing this more kind of ambient music, and I'd reached a point where I was going through the second burnout in my life, and it was, really one of those moments. I'm sure many people who've had to go through a burnout know that it can be a situation where you sort of push everything away, and you sort of look at everything as a source of grief and anguish. And for me, it was funny that on the other hand, I felt like, my career, all the music that I'd made, everything was like the source of this sort of stress and bad stuff. But then yet at the same time, I was taking real comfort in music, going through really big changes in my personal life and being very depressed. I turned to music to give me that feeling of comfort and safety. Somehow, I'd sit in front of a piano or do some music, and it would give me this feeling like, right this very moment, everything is really good, everything is really safe. When I felt like the world around me was crumbling and was so uncertain, music gave me that feeling that actually maybe everything is fine this very moment. And it is that flow state situation. I think when you're able to be truly present, it gives you also that kind of safety and comfort. And flow state really started from like little ideas and demos that was then sort of evolved and worked on over the space of a year and a half. And then towards the end of writing the music, when I was like listening to the demos of it, I was playing some talks, like TED talks, and some of your YouTube chats, and there was a moment where it sort of felt like actually having dialogue, meaningful dialogue, with the music from the album. The music sounded better, and the message felt stronger. It was, the music was supporting what's being said, and that's when we started, thinking like, wouldn't it be amazing if we could actually have a message? Because they're mostly instrumental songs. Couldn't we actually, have a message and help kind of explain and carry the message better? And
Right.
that it was really amazing. I remember that chat that we had where we were talking about like, what should we actually talk about, and we individually come to almost the same conclusion of, how it should be and what it should be about. So
Yeah.
that really felt like a moment of, I don't know, synchronicity or, or like stars aligning.
It was crazy. I think we were both just listening very well at the time to what the community needed, the family needed, the greater global community, not just the sort of Anjuna above and beyond family, but the greater community. And I think we landed on something pretty special.
Mm.
When all of that started to happen, there was a period of time where you healed, you were healing, you figured out your sort of way of living that was going to help you move forward and keep advancing in your creativity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I feel like I'm certainly very much work in progress. It's not like there was like this transition and then it's over and I've figured stuff out. Um, I feel like I'm still very, very much having days where like I'm asking very big questions, and certainly going through COVID-19 and being very ill was felt almost like, near death experience. Coming through it, it's sort of forced me to look at really big things like, what is my life about? Um, who am I living my life for? How does my work relate to me as a person? Coming from a very Finnish angle and talking with a lot of my friends here, I think Finland has a really good sort of work-life balance, and the sort of things that I'm still pondering. It's like work is something that I do. It's not something that I am. But as an artist, it's very easy to become very consumed by, the love that you get from the audience, and sort of reinforcing identity that comes through, everybody thinking, okay, you are this person who does this, who's part of this collective, who has done these things in the past. But actually that's work. That's not who I am. So this is something that still is currently being pondered here in the Finnish forest. It's like,
Mm,
uh, you know,
yeah, I get that.
it's almost like life first, work second.
Yeah.
And can it be like that,
I feel like you've done a pretty great job of creating for those of us who love your music, it does feel like this is who you are, but your ethos, the way that you live your life, interestingly, totally comes through no matter what you do. We know that it's your work, but it does reflect the sensitivity, the thoughtfulness, the care that you take, the time that you take to create what you're aiming to create. And it's a real gift. It's a real gift to all of us. The people who know you, we really appreciate you.
I've always really like adored artists that write with true honesty and integrity when it feels really rooted in the person, and you can really tell like these people are actually really expressing who they are and what they're going through. And as a musician, I've always really tried to be like that, where I can. And it's not an easy thing. I'm not here saying like I'm complaining that I'm a musician, but it can also be a really challenging thing, especially when the stress of the work then becomes the reason of the burnout, and then you kind of look at it and think, you know how much can one do, and maybe sometimes it's good to also not to create, so that you can kind of regain the energy for more.
Well, I think that your time in nature is probably the best antidote for everything. There's the life of the trees, the energy of the trees, the surrounding, the water that you have near you. This is what gives you life. This is what leads you in the direction that you're going. And you can't even question it. It's just let it take you where it wants to take you. And then the creative expression will follow suit, I feel.
Yeah, it's really actually been happening. After I was getting better, I was almost thinking like, do I even want to make music anymore? And then I was here in nature on my own, with like no need to do anything, but I felt a total pull towards my piano. So okay, I started playing piano, and then I started doing some of these live Twitch ambient and chill out sessions, and I loved doing them. The feeling of playing piano, and actually also like in using Twitch to feel like there's like a community. It's like it's almost like a little sort of cocktail bar where this is happening.
It is
and
exactly.
and that thing like somehow like gave me a feeling of like, actually I love music, I love making music, I love the challenge of not planning things and actually just sitting down and seeing what's going to happen. It's difficult to be like overly perfectionist in that way as well, because that's something that I've certainly spotted in myself, where I can feel like it's never kind of good enough. But in a live improvisation situation, if it's not that great, it doesn't matter if it's got the right vibe to it. And I think that's something that I'm now like trying to expand to other forms of creation, where like maybe it doesn't have to be perfect. If I'm having fun doing it, maybe it's going to be a better end result.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that in everything you do always. And I always sort of resonated with you in this way because I too am a recovering perfectionist. So I get it totally.
Well, you
When
can relate.
I can definitely relate. It was March 15th, last couple of questions. It was March 15th or 16th when you reached out to me and said, hey, would you mind considering doing another flow state piece? It's an important moment. I would like to, reach and help and serve in some way. And we talked a lot about surrender. That ended up being the sort of opening thought for Flow State 2. And I would love to just hear your end on why that was so important to you.
Well, I guess even before this coronavirus situation, I felt a real need to have lots of answers, to have like, know how things are going to go. And it's this kind of uncertainty of like not knowing how things are going to go, and not knowing, you know, how ill I'm going to be, how bad my illness is going to get, how is it going to affect, the people I love, or how it's going to affect the world. It's such a complex thing, full of uncertainty. And I think that uncertainty, unchecked and without being aware of it, creates a lot of internal stress. And I think it also creates frustration and anger. And I think that's something that the world is experiencing at large at the moment. And a big part of it is this uncertainty, and being okay with it can be really challenging. So I feel like, because Flow State as an album musically comes from, very similar situation, and its purpose was to give people, feeling of safety and comfort during times of uncertainty. I feel like we are certainly at a time of very big uncertainty on so many different levels, that if there was any way that we could use our platform, our music, your message, and your voice also to help people with this, give them, different point of view on it, um, I think it would be just a wonderful thing to do. And it's also going to help me, and hopefully you as well.
I love our working together because both times it happened where I submitted a writing that took me, about an hour to do. And I did it all. This one I did on the airplane, masked, gloved, an empty airplane, 3 one-way tickets, James, Jonah, and me coming here to New Mexico. So scared, so uncertain, completely unknown. Are we ever going to live in New York again? Was the big question we asked ourselves, and it turns out that we won't. Yeah, we're moving. It's crazy.
Maybe it's also like, I've been talking about this with some of my friends recently, how right now this feels really challenging on many, many different ways. But are we going to look back like 5 years from today and think, oh my God, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that struggle that I went through?
No question.
Is this going to push some positive change that we just don't see yet?
There's so many changes that I see that are totally positive. There are a lot of things that are real struggles. I'm watching my university, Cornell University, just put out a beautiful talk, really informative about how the Black community is being affected by this situation currently and how terrifying it is for so many parts of the world for that community. Those are
Yeah.
things that are very real. I also see in myself a new fearlessness to do the things that I wanted to do that I never did, to take on challenges and projects and scholarly pursuits that I never thought I would have time to do. I'm just cutting out some other things. So I think there's a lot of wisdom here, a lot of medicine here in this time, but time will tell. And I do think you will look back. I know I will look back and think, thank God that happened. You know.
Yeah, it's just, it feels like such a sort of extreme almost thing to say, but I kind of feel like I agree there. I think we will look back at this time on a personal level at
Mm,
least and
mm,
think, okay, where I am now would not have been for this struggle, and
right.
hopefully that I like where I am.
Right. Thank God. When you, in both cases, when we did this back and forth over the writing, the written part of Flow State, the lyrics, you came back to me one time with one sort of constructive question, like, could you think about moving a little bit towards this? In both cases, I came back to you after one rewritten a couple of the sections, and it was approved. Here's your phone. Awesome.
Oh,
What a
that's
great
good.
ring you have. I love that ring.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's for some of my good buddies. It was just
Yes.
one of my great friends who was here with his
Oh,
dog, calling
oh,
me,
that's
check
so
up on me.
nice. I won't keep
So
you
nice.
much longer, I promise.
No, sorry
Promise.
to leave my phone on, but
No worries. No worries. It's real life.
yeah.
The one thing that this has done is given me a lot more latitude for, I was just leading my meditation and Jonah's phone went off and I was like, there it is. Jonah's phone is going off. Thank you for understanding. No sorries, but thank you. Um, anyway, in both cases for the flow states, what I loved is the collaborative work because you came back to me with one note, I incorporated it, I came back to you, and it was a done deal. Um, I'm pretty proud of both of the writings here. I'm proud of the messages, and I'm proud of the way in which we have mobilized, at least the Above and Beyond and Juna family, to rally around themselves, to not give up on themselves, to heed one of the most ancient teachings, which is to stay with yourself. Remember that surrendering is not a weakness. It's a place of remembrance. It's a place of strength. It's a place of deep listening for what needs to happen next. I really, really just have to say, on behalf of all of our listeners and that whole family, like, thank you so much for staying with me and for making sure that the message was clear and salient and the way that you wanted it. Because in both cases, I feel better for your feedback. So thank you for that.
Thank you for doing this work with us. I really do think that collaborations, when they're very good, like ours, are ones where we sort of ping pong off each other. And it was actually really awesome for me to like find one of your YouTube chats and do this like little Twitch live thing as well, and like repurpose that. Thanks so much for letting me do that as well.
That was a cool one. I loved it. A lot of people loved it.
Yeah, it's so nice to experiment with these kinds of things. That's almost like a different kind of thing, though. I'm really proud of this thing that we're launching now because it just feels so very much about what's happening right now. And there hasn't been many times in the world where it truly is a global thing. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about our sort of bigger Anjuna family, that it really is so multicultural and
Mm-hmm.
so global.
Yeah.
Um, and, We have people from very young to very old, and all shapes, sizes, and colors, and religions and locations. So it's a really awesome family to be part of.
It's a huge blessing for me, I can tell you right now. It's the end, and I wanted to ask you the 3 questions that I usually ask my guests. And the
Hmm.
first question is, what in your sort of sphere, personal or external life, could use a little more healing right now?
My body, definitely. I'm still healing, and I've just been very excited to party with my friends. So I think some forest walks are in order.
And also more time with your friends, you know?
Yeah,
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 I get that. I can't wait for the whole world to have their friends back. This is such a big deal right now.
yeah. I really, really can't wait to travel to the States as well. I've got some people there I really want to meet.
Yeah, we miss you. We miss you. I can only imagine. And let's see. The second question, what is your favorite view? I think I know the answer. Many people go inside, some people go outside. For some people, at certain places. What's your favorite view?
It's this. It's where I am. I'm looking at the sunset on a lake in Finland, and this really is like my favorite view in the world. Unfortunately, my kids are not here right now with me, but that I think, when I'm looking at this view with them, that's my absolute favorite thing in the world.
It's sweet to picture the 3 of you. And the final question, what does prayer mean to you?
For me, prayer means gratitude. It's like there's so many different kinds of prayer, I think. But for me personally, um, prayer is that active seeking of a state of gratitude.
That's a good one. I feel that in all the work that you do. It's very sweet that that's what you said. I had a feeling you might use that word. I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to come and talk to me. And is there anything else that you would like to add or say that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I guess I'm very grateful that we're having this chat and that
Mm.
we're able to share this with the world. So um, I feel like maybe we can do another one
Yeah,
maybe in 6 months' time.
I
See
love it.
where how the world's changed, how we've changed.
Mm.
Um, but I think this is a really cool little time capsule. You said
Yeah,
we're like mid quarantine. I really, really hope that's the case,
yeah,
and things get back to normal soon.
I agree with that. I just want to be able to go and gather with people and dance close to other humans, you know? That's what I miss. I miss long hugs and I miss dancing.
Yeah, I've been dancing here by myself.
Of
It's
course.
not quite the
It's not
same.
the same.
It's
No, it's
still
not the
fun.
same. I was dancing on Daybreaker. I taught the class at Daybreaker. Actually, we'll do it again soon. And it was just like, why is this not the same? It's because there's nobody here.
Yeah, we're really like group animals. Like there's something really tribal and awesome about dancing with a lot of people. You don't even need to know them. Just having them around you dancing, I really miss it.
So true. Well, I thank you. I adore you. I appreciate your brotherhood, and I can't say how grateful I am to be collaborating and working with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you soon.
Can't wait.
My dear listener, I have a little treat for you. The second spoken word for the flow state meditations is here for you to preview. You're getting some of the first tastes of it I do hope you enjoy. Paavo and I collaborated on the content in a really beautiful way, as we always do. And we send it to you with so much love, care, concern, and also trust that this is a time of learning and growing. Thank you for listening. There is a place within you that knows how to surrender. This knowing is free of fear. This is where you remember that your strength is in your listening and in welcoming your own tenderness. This place is where you see change as an ally, not an enemy. We are all learning this, finally. This place within you is always at peace, always at rest. You're entering this new beginning where the crucial test is how fluently you can usher forth your truest softness. We are in uncharted territories. We see unimaginable changes. And we're also seeing undeniably emergent harmonies. And we're listening. This time lands us in a slower cadence, a softer stance, a steady release of what's no longer needed, a burgeoning understanding of what it means to let go. We're learning to release the achievements, the possessions, the perfection, to immerse ourselves in the present, the nectar of introspection, real connection. We're learning to give nature the space to teach us her finest lessons yet. We cannot cling to things any longer. We cannot rush forward and think that's conquering. We cannot stay rigidly fixed in our ways. It's our time now to trust, respect, and conjure our finest love. And it's waking us up. What is love? Love is when you allow yourself to feel and release, to heal and be free of any fear you were holding a moment ago. Love is when you welcome the energy of kindness and acceptance to prevail over the diminishing shapes of your most compelling resistance. Love is when you invite yourself to reconnect to your community and to be wrapped up in our unbridled, unconditional acceptance of you. Love is what's emerging in this time of inexplicable reckoning. Love is seeing deeply to the pain inside and finding our hearts hurtling toward the next freedom, the next unified cry for peace. Love is this healing, and it's precisely what you were born to bring. Take one deep breath. May these words interpret our silent pleas to recall our presence in this larger, vast family. Our fallible, earnest, beautiful species. This is when we uncover our strength and our unity. Take one deep breath with me. We wear a veil, collectively, a specter of forgetting that will never lift until we commit ourselves to accepting that our differences are what make us holy. How are we to know what's random and what's purposeful? How can we remind ourselves that what is tragic is also magical? Our work is to consistently offer up our questions and continue learning. What we see clearly is that nature presents us every day with proof of her yearning for more quiet and deepening respect. And this moment in time might be her most poignant, painful, magnificent teaching yet. Let's take one deep breath. Compassion must be our all-encompassing commitment. We are being called to acquaint ourselves with the wisdom of empathy and rise up together in a field of plentiful remembrance that compassion is what we are. And as we practice this state of wholehearted grace, sensing waves of exhilaration with each new change, we savor the adventure, just as we would some ephemeral embrace. We slow down, we soften, we listen again. We take one deep breath. Never forget, you are here to take your soul family into your heart. Let their kindness burst within you like so many stars, and choose what you believe. Because what you believe becomes who you are. Let's welcome more sweetness into our hearts. Let's invite opportunities for uninterrupted thought. Let's go back to the beginning and stop fighting battles that never needed to be fought. Let's sit still. Let's tell stories, make art, and let go. Let's remind one another to love and to know that we are humbled yet worthy, stumbling and full of light. Let's amplify our connections to nature, to each other, to our own insights, so that when this road twists and some perception of failure seems to suddenly arise, we remember we are here together to shine one light. Take one